Romantic billionaires sat in the café. Janitor man makes her laugh instantly. The morning sun filtered through the windows of Mel Brock Hotel's small café. Celeste Davenport sat alone at a corner table, her royal blue blazer wrinkled, blonde hair in a messy ponytail. Her blue eyes, red-rimmed, stared at an untouched cappuccino that had gone cold. At 24, Celeste was the youngest hotel CEO in the region, inheriting Mel Brock after her father's death 6 months ago. The business world saw her as confident and sharp. But here, at 6 in the morning, she was just a daughter who had discovered her father's secrets too late. The letter was still in her blazer pocket. She could feel its weight, even though it was just paper. Her father's handwriting, shaky from his illness, confessing things that shattered everything she thought she knew about her teenage years. Rough morning. The voice startled her. Celeste looked up to find a man in a blue maintenance uniform standing beside her table, a cleaning cart behind him. He had warm brown eyes and an easy smile that seemed genuine, not the practiced politeness she usually encountered. His uniform was clean but worn, yellow gloves tucked into his belt. There was something oddly familiar about him, though she couldn't place it. "I'm sorry," she said automatically, wiping her eyes. "I didn't mean to take up space during your cleaning shift." "You're not taking up space," he replied, pulling out the chair across from her without asking permission. It should have been presumptuous, but somehow it wasn't. "You're providing atmosphere. This place looks too empty without at least one heartbroken billionaire crying into expensive coffee." Despite everything, Celeste felt the corner of her mouth twitch. "How did you know it's expensive?" "Because everything in this hotel is expensive," he said, leaning back in the chair. "I should know, I clean it. You'd be amazed what rich people will pay for a cappuccino that tastes exactly like a $3 one from the gas station." A laugh escaped her. Small, broken, but real. It surprised her more than it surprised him. "There it is," he said softly. "I was worried your face had forgotten how." Celeste studied him more carefully. Mid to late 20s, maybe 28. Strong hands, the kind that worked with tools. A small scar above his left eyebrow. And those eyes, brown with flecks of gold, looking at her with concern that seemed too personal for a stranger. "Do I know you?" she asked. Something flickered across his face. Recognition, maybe pain, maybe hope. "I don't think so, ma'am. I'm just the maintenance guy, Ryan Walker. Been working here about 3 months." "3 months?" Celeste frowned. "I don't remember hiring you." "You didn't. Your general manager did. I mostly work night shifts, but I'm covering for someone today." He paused. "You're Celeste Davenport, right? The owner?" "CEO," she corrected automatically, then shook her head. "Sorry. Yes, that's me." "Must be lonely," Ryan said, standing up and returning to his cleaning cart. "Being the boss, I mean. Everyone either wants something from you or is too scared to tell you the truth." It was such an accurate observation that Celeste felt tears threatening again. "How did you—" "Lucky guess," he said, but his smile had turned sad. "Take care of yourself, Miss Davenport, and maybe drink that coffee before it gets even colder. Or don't. Like I said, it probably tastes like the gas station version anyway." He started to walk away, pushing his cleaning cart toward the back of the cafe. Celeste watched him go, something nagging at her memory. The way he moved, the cadence of his voice, that scar above his eyebrow. "Wait," she called out. Ryan stopped, turning back to her with raised eyebrows. "That scar," Celeste said, standing up and walking toward him. "Above your eye. How did you get it?" His hand moved unconsciously to touch it. "Old motorcycle accident. When I was a kid." Celeste's heart began to pound. "What kind of motorcycle? Why does it matter?" "Please," she said, and her voice was urgent now. "What kind?" Ryan studied her face for a long moment. "A 1970 Harley Davidson. Blue. My dad and I were restoring it together." The cafe seemed to tilt. Celeste grabbed the back of a chair to steady herself. "Ryan Walker," she whispered. "Ryan, oh my God, Ryan." His expression confirmed it before his words did. "Hello, Celeste. You disappeared," she said, the words tumbling out. 10 years ago. We were 15. You and your dad were always at our house, working on that motorcycle with my father in the garage. And then one day you were just gone. No goodbye, no explanation. I asked my dad and he said your family moved away for work." "That's what he told you?" Ryan's voice was carefully neutral. "What do you mean, what he told me?" Celeste's mind was racing. "Ryan, what happened? Where did you go?" Ryan glanced around the empty cafe, then back at his cleaning cart. "This probably isn't the best time or place." "I don't care about the time or place," Celeste said fiercely. "You were my best friend. We spent every summer together for 5 years. You taught me how to skateboard. I taught you how to swim. We made plans to restore motorcycles together when we grew up. And then you vanished like you never existed. Your father paid mine $50,000 to leave California and never contact you again, Ryan said quietly. The words hung in the air between them like smoke. Celeste felt the ground shift beneath her feet. What? He said it was for the best. Said our families came from different worlds and that I would only hold you back from your potential. Ryan's voice was steady, but his eyes held years of pain. My dad took the money. We moved to Oregon. He made me promise never to try to find you. Celeste reached into her blazer pocket and pulled out the crumpled letter. Her hands were shaking so badly she could barely unfold it. Is that why he wrote this? Ryan didn't take the letter, but he could see enough of the handwriting to recognize it. When did he write that? A month before he died. I found it yesterday in his office in a locked drawer with other letters he never sent. This one was addressed to me. Celeste's voice broke. He apologized for pushing you away. Said it was the biggest mistake of his life. Said he realized too late that money and status didn't matter as much as the people who genuinely cared about us. Celeste. Ryan took a step toward her, then stopped himself. I'm sorry about your father. Did you know he was sick? I heard through some mutual contacts in the industry. By the time I found out, it was too late to visit. You would have visited? Celeste asked. After what he did? He was a good man who made a mistake, Ryan said simply. And he was your father? Yeah, I would have visited. Celeste sank back into her chair, the letter still clutched in her hand. Ryan hesitated, then sat down across from her again, this time without the easy confidence from before. They looked at each other across the small table, two people who had known each other as children and were now strangers, shaped by 10 years of separate lives. The motorcycle, Celeste said suddenly. The blue Harley. Do you still have it? A smile crossed Ryan's face. The first real one she'd seen from him since the revelation. Yeah. Took me 8 years, but I finally finished restoring it. I ride it to work every day. My father kept the original parts, Celeste said. In storage. I found them last month when I was going through his things. Carburetors, handles, a custom seat. I didn't understand why he kept them until I read the letter. He felt guilty, Ryan said. He should have, Celeste replied, anger flashing in her eyes. He separated us because he thought you weren't good enough for his daughter. Because your family wasn't rich, because... She stopped, a new realization dawning. We were 15. We were just friends. Why would he? We weren't just friends by the end, Celeste, Ryan said gently. At least I wasn't. And I think you felt it too. She had. God, she had. Those last few months before Ryan disappeared, something had been changing between them. The way her heart would race when he smiled at her. How she looked forward to summer mornings in the garage more than anything else. The almost kiss that last day, interrupted when her father called them for lunch. I waited for you, she whispered. That last day of summer. We were supposed to meet at the beach. I waited for 3 hours. You never came. I was already on a bus to Oregon, Ryan said, and his voice was rough with old grief. My dad came home that morning with a check and 2 bus tickets. He said we had to leave immediately. I fought him, Celeste. I tried to call your house, but your father answered and told me it was better this way. He said if I really cared about you, I'd let you have the life you deserved. And you believed him? I was 15 and poor, and my dad was holding a check that would keep us from being evicted from our apartment, Ryan said. What choice did I have? The anger drained out of Celeste, replaced by a bone-deep sadness. I looked for you, for years. I tried social media. I hired a private investigator when I turned 18. Nothing. It was like you'd become a ghost. My dad made us change our last name, Ryan admitted. Legal name change, new social security numbers, everything. He was thorough when he wanted to be. He paused. He died 5 years ago. Liver failure. I'm sorry. Don't be. He made his choices. Ryan's expression softened. But he did keep the money in a trust for me. Said it was blood money and he wouldn't spend it on himself. When he died, it came to me. I used it to finish the Harley. Celeste found herself smiling through tears. He would have hated that. Your father? Yeah, probably. Ryan smiled back. But it felt right. That motorcycle was the last good thing for my old life. Finishing it felt like, I don't know, closure? Is that why you came back to California, for closure? Ryan's smile faded. I came back because I never stopped looking for you either, Celeste. I just had to wait until I was free to do it. The air between them became charged with something electric, something that felt like 15 years old and brand new at the same time. Celeste was acutely aware of how close he was sitting, of the way the morning light caught in his brown eyes, of how her heart was pounding in a way it hadn't since. "Ms. Davenport?" A sharp voice cut through the moment. Celeste turned to see Patricia Hammond, her general manager, standing at the cafe entrance in a pristine gray suit, her expression disapproving. "Patricia," Celeste said, automatically straightening in her chair. "I wasn't expecting you until 8. I saw your car in the lot and wanted to discuss the quarterly reports," Patricia said, her gaze sliding to Ryan with obvious disdain. "I see you're occupied." "We were just talking," Celeste said, and hated how defensive she sounded. "Walker, you're supposed to be cleaning the conference rooms, not bothering our CEO," Patricia said coldly. Ryan stood immediately, his expression neutral. "Yes, ma'am. My apologies." He looked at Celeste one more time, something unspoken passing between them, then pushed his cleaning cart toward the back exit. "Really, Celeste," Patricia said once Ryan was gone, "you need to maintain appropriate boundaries with the staff. It sends the wrong message." "He wasn't bothering me," Celeste said, standing up. "We were having a conversation. A conversation that left you looking even more upset than when you arrived," Patricia pointed out. "Whatever personal issues you're dealing with, they shouldn't involve the maintenance staff. It's unprofessional." Celeste wanted to argue, but Patricia wasn't entirely wrong. She was the CEO. Ryan was her employee, and they had a complicated past that she didn't fully understand yet. Still, Patricia's dismissive tone grated on her. "I'll keep that in mind," Celeste said coolly. "Now about those quarterly reports?" The rest of the morning passed in a blur of spreadsheets, conference calls, and decisions about renovations and staffing. Celeste went through the motions, but her mind kept drifting back to Ryan. His face when he told her about the $50,000. The way he said her name like it still hurt to say it out loud. The admission that he'd been looking for her too. By noon, she couldn't take it anymore. She found Patricia in her office. "I need Ryan Walker's personnel file," Celeste said. Patricia looked up from her computer, one eyebrow raised. "Why?" "Because I'm the CEO and I asked for it." "Celeste." "Patricia, please." Her general manager studied her for a long moment, then sighed and pulled up the file on her computer. "Fine, but I'm advising against whatever you're planning." Celeste leaned over to read the screen. Ryan Walker, age 28. Current address, a modest apartment complex 15 minutes from the hotel. Previous employment, various maintenance and mechanical jobs in Oregon and Washington. Education, high school diploma, some community college courses in automotive repair. No red flags, no disciplinary actions, good attendance, positive reviews from supervisors. At the bottom of the file was a note from Patricia herself. Hired primarily for night shift maintenance. Keeps to himself. Excellent with mechanical repairs. Seems overqualified for position but needs the work. "He works nights," Celeste said. "Mostly," Patricia confirmed. "He's covering day shift this week because Tom is out with the flu." "Why does this matter?" "It matters," Celeste said, straightening up. "Thank you, Patricia." "Celeste." But she was already walking out, her mind made up. She had wasted 10 years not knowing where Ryan was. She wasn't going to waste another day. The apartment complex was called Sunset Gardens, though there was neither a sunset view nor any gardens visible. It was a 3-story building with faded blue paint and a parking lot full of older cars. Celeste felt conspicuous pulling up in her black Mercedes, but she parked anyway and checked the address she'd memorized from the personnel file. Apartment 2B, second floor, end unit. She climbed the external stairs, her heart pounding. What was she doing? She was the CEO of a major hotel, showing up at her employee's apartment in the middle of the day. Patricia was right. This was unprofessional, inappropriate, possibly harassment. But she kept climbing. She knocked on the door of 2B 3 times before she heard movement inside. When the door opened, Ryan was standing there in jeans and a gray t-shirt, his hair damp from a recent shower. He looked surprised but not displeased to see her. "Celeste? Can I come in?" she asked. He stepped aside without a word. The apartment was small but immaculate. A studio with a kitchen area, bed in one corner, and a couch facing a modest TV. What caught Celeste's attention was the far wall, covered in photographs. She walked closer, her breath catching. Old photos, some faded and creased. Her and Ryan as kids at the beach. Their fathers in the garage, grease-stained and grinning. Teenage Celeste and Ryan on the half-restored Harley making ridiculous faces at the camera. "You kept these," she said softly. "I kept everything I could grab before we left," Ryan said from behind her. My dad made me pack in 20 minutes. I shoved what I could into my backpack. These photos, some clothes, a book you lent me. Celeste turned to face him. Why did you come back, Ryan? Really? He was quiet for a long moment. Because 10 years is long enough to be angry at circumstances, he said finally. Because I finished that motorcycle and realized it meant nothing if I couldn't show it to the only person who would understand. Because I'm 28, and I've never felt about anyone the way I felt about you at 15. Celeste's breath caught. Ryan, I know it's crazy, he continued. I know we're different people now. You're a CEO, and I'm a janitor who works night shifts and lives in a studio apartment. But when I saw you in that cafe this morning, crying over coffee and looking so lost, Celeste, you were my best friend. Before anything else, you were my best friend. And I had to at least try to find out if there was anything left to salvage. There is, Celeste said, the words coming out before she could stop them. There is, Ryan. I don't know what it looks like now, or how we make it work with everything that's different between us. But there is something here. He crossed the small room in 3 steps and stopped just in front of her, close enough that she could smell his soap and see the flecks of gold in his brown eyes. Your general manager didn't look happy about me talking to you, he said quietly. Patricia doesn't run my life. No, but she's right about one thing. I'm your employee. You're my boss. That complicates things. So we'll uncomplicate them, Celeste said. I'll transfer you to a different department or I'll quit, Ryan said simply. I didn't come back to work as a janitor, Celeste. I came back to find you. The job was just a way to get close to the hotel where I knew you'd be. She should have been disturbed by that. It sounded like stalking when said out loud, but looking at his face, seeing the vulnerability there, she understood. He had spent 10 years unable to look for her because of a promise to a dying father, and when he was finally free, he had done what she had done years ago, tried to find the person who mattered. Hello, my friend, how was your day today? Is everything okay? Ryan asked softly, and Celeste realized he was repeating the question he'd asked in the cafe, but this time it was gentler, more personal. It's been the strangest day of my life, she admitted. I woke up with a letter from my dead father, discovered my best friend has been cleaning my hotel for 3 months without me knowing, and now I'm standing in your apartment trying to figure out if I'm crazy or if this is actually happening. It's happening, Ryan said, and I don't think you're crazy. Maybe we both are. Celeste laughed, and this time it felt easier, more natural. Can I see it? See what? The motorcycle, the Harley. His face lit up. Yeah, of course. Let me grab my keys. They took his truck, an older Ford that had seen better days but ran smoothly, to a storage facility on the outskirts of town. Ryan explained that he couldn't keep the Harley at his apartment complex. The landlord was strict about vehicles in the parking lot, so he rented a small storage unit where he could work on it and keep it safe. When he rolled up the metal door of Unit 47, Celeste saw it immediately. The Harley-Davidson was breathtaking, deep blue paint, polished chrome, every inch restored with obvious care. It looked exactly as she remembered from childhood, but perfected. Ryan, she breathed. It's beautiful. Took me 8 years, he said proudly. Some parts were impossible to find. I had to fabricate a few custom, but I wanted it exactly right. Celeste walked around the motorcycle slowly, taking in every detail. The leather seat hand-stitched. The speedometer, original but refurbished. The small dent in the gas tank that Ryan's dad had insisted on leaving because it was character. He would be proud, she said. Your dad. Even if he didn't want you to spend the money on it, he would be proud of this. I hope so, Ryan said quietly. Celeste ran her hand along the handlebars, remembering sitting on this same bike as a 14-year-old, her father taking photos while Ryan's dad adjusted the engine. Do you ride it? Every day I can. It's why I work night shifts. Less traffic when I ride to work, safer on the highway. Take me for a ride, Celeste said impulsively. Ryan's eyes widened. Now? Why not? When was the last time I did something impulsive? She gestured at herself in her royal blue blazer and denim shorts. I'm dressed like I'm going to a beach resort board meeting. I own a hotel empire. I spend my days in conference rooms making decisions about carpet patterns and profit margins. When did I become this person, Ryan? You became the person your father raised you to be, Ryan said gently. That's not a bad thing. But it's not the whole thing, Celeste countered. The girl who used to skateboard and swim and get grease stains on her clothes working on motorcycles, she's still here somewhere, and I think she wants to ride that Harley. Ryan smiled, really smiled, for the first time since their reunion. Okay, but you're wearing a helmet. Obviously. He produced 2 helmets from a shelf in the storage unit, handed her one, and straddled the motorcycle. Climb on behind me. Hold on tight. Celeste positioned herself behind him, wrapping her arms around his waist. Through his t-shirt she could feel the steady beat of his heart, the warmth of his body. When the engine roared to life, she felt the vibration through her entire body, a thrill she hadn't experienced in years. Ready? Ryan called over his shoulder. Ready. They pulled out of the storage facility and onto the highway. The afternoon sun was warm on Celeste's back, the wind rushing past them as Ryan opened up the throttle. She held on tighter, her blonde hair whipping out behind her despite the helmet, her earlier tears forgotten in the pure joy of movement and freedom. Ryan took them along the coastal highway, the Pacific Ocean sparkling blue and endless to their left. Celeste pressed her cheek against his back and closed her eyes, feeling more alive than she had in months, maybe years. The weight of responsibility, of grief, of her father's secrets, all of it fell away, replaced by this simple moment of speed and sunshine and the warmth of someone she trusted at her back. When they finally stopped at a scenic overlook, both of them were grinning like children. That was incredible, Celeste said, pulling off her helmet. Her hair was a mess, her blazer wrinkled from the wind, and she didn't care at all. The bike runs well, Ryan said, his own helmet under his arm. Better than I hoped. They walked to the edge of the overlook where a wooden railing separated them from a steep drop to the rocky beach below. The ocean stretched out before them, endless and blue, seagulls crying in the distance. I used to dream about this, Celeste said softly. After you disappeared, I used to dream that you'd come back and we'd finish restoring the motorcycle together, and we'd ride along this exact highway. Just like this? Not quite like this, she admitted. In my dreams, we were still 15. We didn't have 10 years of separation between us. We didn't have to deal with the fact that my father paid yours to leave, or that we're now boss and employee, or that we're essentially strangers who used to be best friends. We don't have to be strangers, Ryan said. We could get to know each other again. Is that what you want? He turned to face her, the ocean breeze ruffling his hair. I want a lot of things, Celeste. I want to understand why your father felt he had to break us apart. I want to know what your life has been like for the last 10 years. I want to take you to dinner and hear you laugh like you did on the back of that Harley. He stopped, seeming to struggle with the words. I want to find out if what I felt at 15 was real, or if it was just kid stuff that I built up in my head over a decade of missing you. And if it was real, then we figure out what to do about it, he said simply. Celeste looked at him, really looked at him. At 28, Ryan Walker was no longer the lanky teenager she remembered. He had filled out, grown into himself. His hands were calloused from work, his face marked by life's experiences, but his eyes were the same, kind, honest, with that same spark of humor and intelligence she had fallen for when they were too young to understand what it meant. I'm scared, she admitted. I just lost my father. I'm running a business I'm barely qualified for. My general manager hates the idea of me fraternizing with staff. And you're the one person from my past who actually knew me before all of this weight got piled on. What if we try this and it ruins even that memory? What if we don't try and spend the rest of our lives wondering what if? Ryan countered. He had a point. Celeste had spent 10 years wondering what if. She didn't want to spend another 10. Okay, she said. Let's figure this out. But we have to be smart about it. No sneaking around, no hiding. I'll talk to Patricia about transferring you to a different supervisor, or we'll figure out your employment situation. And we take this slow. Actual dates, actual conversations, getting to know who we are now and not just who we were. I can do slow, Ryan said, and his smile was soft and genuine. I've waited 10 years. I can wait a little longer to do this right. They stayed at the overlook until the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. They talked about everything and nothing. His life in Oregon, her years at business school, favorite books and movies and foods. It was easy in a way Celeste hadn't expected, slipping back into the comfortable rhythm of friendship they'd had as teenagers. When Ryan finally drove her back to her car at the storage facility, it was after dark. Thank you, Celeste said as she climbed off the motorcycle. For today, for being honest with me, for the ride. Thank you for not running away when you found out I was the janitor, Ryan replied. I don't care that you're a janitor, Celeste said firmly. I care that you're you. Your general manager will care. Patricia works for me, not the other way around, Celeste said. But even as she said it, she knew it was more complicated than that. Patricia had been with Melbrook Hotel for 20 years, had helped Celeste's father build the business, and had her own ideas about how things should run. Convincing her to accept Ryan was going to be a battle. "Hey," Ryan said, touching her hand gently. "One day at a time, remember?" "One day at a time," Celeste agreed. She drove home to her mansion on the cliffs overlooking the ocean, a house far too large for one person, filled with her father's furniture and her mother's paintings, and her own loneliness. But for the first time in months, she didn't feel quite so alone. That night, she pulled out all the photos she had of Ryan from her own childhood. They were in a box in her closet, along with the skateboard he'd given her for her 14th birthday and a mixtape he'd made her that last summer. She spread the photos across her bed and looked at them with new eyes. There, in every picture, was the evidence of what she had been too young to name back then. The way teenage Ryan looked at teenage Celeste, the way she leaned into him in group photos, the easy affection, the shared jokes, the complete comfort in each other's presence. Her father had seen it too. That's why he'd acted so drastically. Celeste picked up her phone and pulled up Patricia's number. It was late, but this couldn't wait. "Patricia, it's Celeste. I need you to do something for me first thing tomorrow morning." "What is it?" Patricia sounded tired and annoyed at being called at 10 p.m. "I need you to move Ryan Walker from maintenance to the restoration projects team. We're renovating the West Wing, and I understand he has experience with mechanical and construction work. He'll be reporting to Tom Chen instead of you." "Celeste, we discussed this." "This isn't a discussion, Patricia. It's a directive. Ryan Walker is overqualified for basic maintenance anyway. This is a better use of his skills." There was a long silence. "Is this about your personal connection to him?" "This is about effective resource management," Celeste said coolly. "Will it be a problem?" Another pause. "No, Ms. Davenport. I'll process the transfer in the morning." "Thank you. Good night, Patricia." Celeste hung up before her general manager could argue further. She knew she was burning political capital, knew she was doing exactly what Patricia had warned against, but she didn't care. For the first time since inheriting Melbrook Hotel, she was making a decision based on what she wanted, not what she thought she should want. The next morning, Celeste arrived at the hotel at dawn, before the day shift started. She made her way to the maintenance break room, where she knew Ryan would be finishing his night shift. He was there, sitting alone at a small table, eating a sandwich and reading a book. Marcus Aurelius's Meditations, she noticed. "Stoic philosophy?" she asked from the doorway. Ryan looked up, surprise and pleasure crossing his face. "You remember. You were obsessed with Marcus Aurelius the summer you were 14, Celeste said, stepping into the room. "You kept quoting him during the motorcycle restoration. You have power over your mind, not outside events." Your dad thought it was hilarious. He didn't understand it, Ryan said with a slight smile, but he respected that I was trying to understand something bigger than myself. Celeste sat down across from him. "I transferred you this morning. You're working on the West Wing renovation now, reporting to Tom Chen. It's a step up. Better pay, normal hours, more in line with your actual skills." Ryan set down his book. "You didn't have to do that. I know, but I wanted to. You were right yesterday. Us being supervisor and employee complicates things. This doesn't completely solve it, but it helps. Your general manager is going to hate this." "Patricia hates a lot of things," Celeste said. "She'll get over it or she won't. Either way, this was the right call." Ryan studied her for a moment, then nodded. "Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Tom Chen is a hard ass. He expects perfection, and he doesn't tolerate excuses. If you're not up for the work, I'm up for it," Ryan said firmly. "Good." Celeste stood, then hesitated. "Have dinner with me tomorrow night? Somewhere away from the hotel, somewhere we can talk without worrying about who sees us?" "I'd like that," Ryan said. His smile was warm and genuine. "Pick you up at 7? "I'll meet you there," Celeste said. "Let's not give the staff any more gossip than necessary. I'll text you the address." As she walked back to her office, Celeste felt lighter than she had in months. There were still so many questions unanswered, so many complications to work through, but for the first time since her father died, she felt like she was moving forward instead of just treading water. The day passed in its usual blur of meetings and decisions. Celeste approved renovation budgets, reviewed staffing schedules, and dealt with a complaint from a guest about the breakfast buffet. Normal CEO things. But underneath it all was a current of anticipation, a feeling she hadn't experienced in years. At 3 o'clock, her assistant buzzed her. "Ms. Davenport, there's someone here to see you. He says he has something that belongs to you." "Who is it?" Ryan Walker, from the renovation team. Celeste's heart skipped. Send him in. Ryan entered her office carrying a small cardboard box, looking somewhat out of place in the elegant room with its floor-to-ceiling windows and modern furniture. He was in work clothes, jeans and a Melbrook Hotel polo shirt, and there was sawdust in his hair. "Hi," he said. "Hi," Celeste replied, standing up from behind her desk. "What's this?" Ryan set the box on her desk. "We were clearing out one of the storage rooms in the west wing for the renovation. Found this tucked in a corner behind some old furniture. It has your name on it." Celeste looked down at the box. It was indeed labeled in her father's handwriting. "Celeste, store safely." With trembling hands, she opened it. Inside were more letters, dozens of them, all in her father's handwriting. But these weren't addressed to her. They were addressed to Ryan. "Oh my God," she whispered. Ryan came around the desk to look. Together, they lifted out the letters. They were dated across 10 years from the year Ryan left all the way to a month before her father died. None of them had been sent. Celeste picked up one at random and began to read aloud. "Dear Ryan, it's been 3 years since I made the biggest mistake of my life. Celeste graduated today. She was valedictorian, but when she gave her speech, the light in her eyes was gone. The same light that used to shine when she worked on that motorcycle with you. I wonder if I killed that light when I sent you away. I'm writing this knowing I'll never send it, because what right do I have to ask forgiveness? I destroyed a friendship because I was too proud to imagine my daughter with a mechanic's son. I was wrong, Ryan. I was so wrong." Celeste's voice broke on the last words. She set the letter down and picked up another, this one dated more recently. "Dear Ryan, I'm dying. 6 months, maybe a year. I've written letters to everyone I've wronged, but I don't know how to make amends with you. I stole 10 years from you and Celeste. I wanted her to marry someone from our world. Instead, she's 23 and alone. Brilliant at running the hotel, but lonely. She never forgot you, Ryan, and I never told her why you left. I'm a coward. If you're reading this, please know my greatest regret isn't business deals or money. It's the look in my daughter's eyes when she stopped asking where you went. Sincerely, Marcus Davenport." Celeste was crying openly now, tears streaming down her face as she clutched the letter. Ryan stood beside her, one hand on her shoulder, his own eyes wet. "He never sent any of them," Celeste said. "He wrote to you for 10 years and never sent a single letter. He was ashamed," Ryan said quietly, "and he didn't know how to undo what he'd done." "He should have tried," Celeste said fiercely. "He should have found you and told you the truth and let us decide for ourselves what we wanted." "Maybe he wanted to," Ryan said, "but pride is a powerful thing, and fear that he'd make it worse or that we'd hate him, or that the damage was already too permanent to fix." Celeste turned to look at him. "Do you hate him?" Ryan was quiet for a long moment. "No," he said finally. "I'm angry at what he did, but I don't hate him. He made a mistake that cost us both a lot, but he spent the rest of his life regretting it. That has to count for something." "You're more forgiving than I am," Celeste said. "I've had 10 years to work through my anger," Ryan pointed out. "You just found out yesterday." They spent the next hour going through the letters together, reading her father's progression from defensive justification to guilt to genuine remorse. It was painful and cathartic, seeing her father's inner thoughts laid bare. By the time they reached the last letter, both of them were emotionally exhausted. "I need to get back to work," Ryan said reluctantly. "Tom will wonder where I disappeared to." "Thank you for bringing these to me," Celeste said. "I know it couldn't have been easy to read them." "Actually, it helped," Ryan said. "It's easier to move forward when you understand why things happened the way they did." After he left, Celeste sat alone in her office, surrounded by her father's unsent letters. She thought about the man who had raised her, proud, ambitious, protective to a fault, and she thought about the man he had become at the end, regretful, vulnerable, desperate to undo his mistakes but not brave enough to actually do it. "I wish you'd been braver, Dad," she said aloud to the empty room. "I wish you'd sent just one of these letters, but I'm not going to make your mistake. I'm not going to let pride or fear or what other people think stop me from figuring out what Ryan and I could be." That night she drafted her own letter. "Dear Dad, I found your letters today. All of them. I've spent the last few hours crying and angry and trying to understand why you never sent them, but I think I get it. You were scared of admitting you were wrong, scared of making things worse, scared that if you reached out to Ryan, he'd reject you and confirm your worst fears about what you destroyed. I'm scared too, Dad. I'm scared of trying to rebuild a friendship that ended 10 years ago. I'm scared that whatever Ryan and I felt at 15 won't translate to who we are at 24 and 28. I'm scared of disappointing Patricia and the board, and everyone who thinks a CEO shouldn't date someone who works in renovations. But I'm more scared of becoming you at the end, full of regrets and unsent letters wishing I'd been brave enough to try. So I'm going to try. I'm going to have dinner with Ryan tomorrow and get to know who he is now. I'm going to risk the possibility that it won't work out, because the alternative is spending the rest of my life wondering what if. I wish you were here so I could tell you that I forgive you. I wish you were here so you could meet adult Ryan and see that he's everything you were worried he wouldn't be. Educated, hardworking, kind, honest. I wish you were here to give me advice on how to navigate this impossible situation, but you're not. So I'll figure it out myself. And maybe if I'm lucky, I'll end up with fewer regrets than you had. Love always, Celeste. She folded the letter and placed it in an envelope, then drove to the cemetery where her father was buried. She placed the envelope on his grave, held down by a small stone, knowing the wind would eventually take it but needing to complete the ritual anyway. I hope you're proud of me, Dad, she said to the headstone. Not for running the hotel or making smart business decisions. I hope you're proud that I'm choosing to be brave. The next morning, Celeste woke with a sense of purpose she hadn't felt in months. She had dinner with Ryan tonight, and she was determined to approach it with honesty and openness. No games, no pretenses, just two people trying to figure out if what they had was worth building on. She spent the day finalizing details on the West Wing renovation, reviewing budget proposals and dealing with the usual mix of crises and opportunities that came with running a hotel. But in the back of her mind, she was rehearsing what she wanted to say to Ryan, how to ask the questions that mattered, how to be vulnerable without being desperate. At 6 o'clock, she left the office and went home to change. She stood in front of her closet for 10 minutes trying to decide what to wear. Nothing too formal. This wasn't a business dinner. Nothing too casual. She wanted Ryan to know she was taking this seriously. Finally, she settled on white linen pants and a royal blue sleeveless blouse that matched her eyes, her blonde hair loose around her shoulders. The restaurant Ryan had chosen was perfect. A small seafood place right on the beach. Casual but not cheap, with outdoor seating that let you hear the waves while you ate. Celeste arrived right at 7 and found Ryan already there, waiting at a table with an ocean view. He'd cleaned up from work, wearing dark jeans and a button-down blue shirt, his hair still damp from a shower. "Hi," she said, sitting down across from him. "Hi," he replied, and his smile was nervous and genuine. "You look beautiful." "Thank you. You look pretty good yourself." They ordered wine and food, making small talk about their days while the server bustled around them. But once they were alone, the conversation turned more serious. "I've been thinking about your father's letters," Ryan said. "About what he wrote." "Me too," Celeste admitted. "All day. The thing that struck me most was how much he regretted it," Ryan continued. "Not just the action, but the waste. All those years we could have been in each other's lives, even if it was just as friends. Gone because he couldn't admit he was wrong. Is that what you want?" Celeste asked. "To be friends?" Ryan met her eyes directly. "I want to find out if we can be more than friends, but I also don't want to rush into something just because we have history. We need to actually know each other as adults first." "That sounds remarkably mature and reasonable," Celeste said with a slight smile. "My therapist would be proud," Ryan said, then added at Celeste's surprised look, "What? You think I spent 10 years getting over the trauma of being paid to leave without working on my issues? I've been in therapy since I was 22. "I should probably be in therapy too," Celeste admitted, "but I keep telling myself I'm too busy." "Classic CEO move," Ryan teased gently. "Mental health is for other people, right?" "Shut up," Celeste said, but she was laughing. Their food arrived, and they ate while watching the sun set over the ocean. The conversation flowed easily, moving from serious topics to lighter ones and back again. They talked about books and movies, about places they wanted to travel, about dreams deferred and new goals. It felt natural, comfortable, but also electric. Every accidental brush of hands, every shared smile, charged with possibility. "Merry Christmas to all, and may God protect them. This is a wish from the channel creator." "Can I ask you something?" Celeste said as they shared a dessert. Key lime pie that Ryan insisted was the best on the coast. "Anything. When you were looking for me during those 10 years, what did you imagine it would be like when you finally found me?" Ryan set down his fork and considered the question. "Honestly, I had a lot of different scenarios. Sometimes I imagined you'd be married with kids and I'd just introduce myself and explain what happened and we'd have closure. Sometimes I imagined you'd be angry at me for disappearing and wouldn't want to hear my explanation. Sometimes, he paused. Sometimes I imagined exactly this. Having dinner, getting to know each other again, seeing if the connection was still there. And, is it? He looked at her with those warm brown eyes, and Celeste felt her heart skip. Yeah, Celeste, it really is. They lingered over coffee until the restaurant started closing, neither wanting the evening to end. Finally, they walked out onto the beach, taking off their shoes and letting the cool sand and gentle waves wash over their feet. I don't want to mess this up, Celeste said as they walked along the waterline. I know we're taking it slow, but I also don't want to waste time playing games or pretending I don't feel things I do feel. What do you feel? Ryan asked. Scared, excited, hopeful, terrified that I'm going to ruin the one good thing that's come out of all this grief and pain. She stopped walking and turned to face him. But also really, really glad you came back. Even if nothing romantic ever happens between us, I'm glad to have you in my life again. Ryan took her hand, threading his fingers through hers. I'm glad too, and I don't think you're going to ruin anything. We're both too aware of how precious this is to screw it up carelessly. Is it weird that I want to kiss you, but I'm also terrified to kiss you? Celeste asked. Ryan laughed, the sound warm and genuine. No, because I feel exactly the same way. So what do we do about it? We wait, Ryan said simply. We wait until we're both sure it's what we want, and not just nostalgia or grief or loneliness. We wait until kissing you feels like the most natural thing in the world instead of a terrifying risk. And how long will that take? I don't know, Ryan admitted. But we've waited 10 years. What's a little longer? They walked back to the parking lot hand in hand, and when they reached their cars, Ryan pulled her into a hug, warm, tight, comforting. Celeste pressed her face against his chest and breathed in his scent, memorizing this moment. Good night, Celeste, he said softly. Good night, Ryan. She drove home with the windows down, the ocean breeze in her hair, her heart lighter than it had been in months. When she reached her mansion, she didn't feel quite as lonely in its big, empty rooms. She had something to look forward to now, not just the possibility of romance, but the certainty of connection. The next weeks fell into a pattern. Celeste and Ryan saw each other regularly. Dinners, walks on the beach, rides on the Harley. They talked about everything and nothing, slowly peeling back the layers of who they had become. Celeste learned that Ryan loved cooking but hated baking, that he volunteered at a community center teaching motorcycle repair to at-risk youth, that he read philosophy and history voraciously. Ryan learned that Celeste secretly wrote poetry, that she was terrified of failing at running the hotel, that she missed her father desperately but was also angry at him in ways she didn't fully understand yet. They didn't kiss. They held hands. They hugged. They sat close enough that their shoulders touched. But they were keeping their word about taking it slow, until one afternoon when everything changed. Celeste was in her office, buried in paperwork, when Patricia burst in without knocking. We have a problem, she said, her face pale. What kind of problem? The kind where a reporter from the San Francisco Chronicle is in the lobby asking questions about Ryan Walker and his relationship with you. Celeste's stomach dropped. What? Apparently someone tipped them off that you've been seen with him multiple times outside of work. They're calling it a scandal. CEO and employee fraternization, potential favoritism in his transfer to the renovation team. Patricia's expression was grim. This is exactly what I warned you about, Celeste. We haven't done anything wrong, Celeste said, standing up. Ryan and I are friends. The reporter has photos of you on his motorcycle having dinner, walking on the beach holding hands, Patricia said. It doesn't look like just friends to the public. I don't care what it looks like to the public, Celeste said, but her heart was pounding. My personal life is my business. Not when you're the CEO of a major hotel, Patricia countered. Not when your personal choices affect the company's reputation. The board is going to hear about this, Celeste, and they're not going to be happy. Celeste felt the walls closing in. This was exactly what her father had feared. The scrutiny, the judgment, the way personal relationships could become public spectacles. But she wasn't going to make his mistake. She wasn't going to let fear dictate her choices. Send the reporter to me, she said. I'll talk to them. Celeste, I said send them to me. And call an emergency board meeting for tomorrow morning. If they want to discuss my personal life, they can do it to my face. Patricia left, shaking her head. Celeste sat back down at her desk and pulled out her phone, texting Ryan. We need to talk. Can you come to my office? He arrived 10 minutes later, concern written all over his face. What's wrong? She explained about the reporter, about the photos, about the impending board meeting. With each word, Ryan's expression grew more serious. "I should have known this would happen," he said. "I should have been more careful." "We both should have," Celeste said. "But I'm not going to apologize for being seen with you, Ryan. I'm not going to hide like my father did." "What are you going to do?" "I'm going to tell the truth," Celeste said. "We're two adults who have a shared history and are exploring whether that history can become a future. It's not scandalous, it's not inappropriate, and it's nobody's business but ours. Your board might disagree. Then they can replace me as CEO," Celeste said, and realized as she said it that she meant it. "I won't live my life according to other people's expectations anymore. My father did that, and it made him miserable. I won't make the same mistake." Ryan looked at her with something like wonder. "You've changed, Celeste. From the girl I knew. Is that good or bad?" "It's incredible," he said softly. The moment hung between them, charged and significant. And then, without really deciding to, Celeste stood up and crossed the space between them. Ryan met her halfway, and when their lips finally met, it felt like coming home and starting an adventure all at once. The kiss was soft, tentative, sweet. Everything a first kiss should be, and nothing like the rushed, desperate kisses of uncertain teenagers. This was a kiss between two adults who knew what they wanted, and were choosing it deliberately. Consequences be damned. When they pulled apart, both of them were breathing hard, foreheads pressed together. "So much for taking it slow," Ryan said with a shaky laugh. "We took it slow for 10 years, Celeste replied. "I think we've earned the right to speed up a little." "What about the reporter? The board?" "Let me worry about that," Celeste said. "Right now I just want to enjoy this moment with you." They kissed again, longer this time, the world outside her office fading away. Whatever came next, angry board members, invasive reporters, public scrutiny, they would face it together. And for the first time since her father died, Celeste felt truly, genuinely hopeful about the future, because she wasn't facing it alone anymore. The emergency board meeting convened at 8 the next morning in the executive conference room. Celeste stood at the head of the polished mahogany table, facing 12 board members whose expressions ranged from concerned to openly hostile. Patricia sat to her right, her face carefully neutral. "Let me be very clear," Celeste began, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "Ryan Walker and I have a personal relationship that began when we were children. My father paid his family to leave California 10 years ago because he disapproved of the friendship. Ryan returned 3 months ago, we reconnected, and yes, we are now dating. None of this has affected my ability to run this hotel, and none of it violates any company policies." Robert Chen, the oldest board member and a close friend of her father's, leaned forward. "Celeste, we're not questioning your capability. We're questioning your judgment. An employee relationship creates liability." "He's not my employee anymore," Celeste interrupted. "As of this morning, Ryan has resigned from Mel Brock Hotel. He'll be opening his own motorcycle restoration business with money he inherited from his father. We've already retained legal counsel to ensure there are no conflicts of interest." This was news to the board, and murmurs rippled around the table. "When did this happen?" Patricia asked sharply. "Last night, after I kissed him in my office and realized that no job, no public opinion, and certainly no board meeting was worth losing him again." Celeste met each board member's eyes in turn. "My father spent 10 years regretting a choice he made out of fear and pride. I won't make the same mistake." "Your father built this company," Robert said quietly. "Don't you think you owe it to his memory to what? To be miserable and alone like he was at the end?" Celeste's voice cracked slightly. "I found a box of letters he wrote to Ryan over 10 years. Apologies he never sent, regrets he never voiced. He died with those regrets, Robert. And the last thing he wrote to me was that his biggest mistake wasn't a business decision. It was putting business before the people he loved." She pulled out her father's final letter and read aloud, "Celeste, if you're reading this, I'm gone. Don't make my mistakes. Don't let fear or pride or what others think stop you from living fully. The hotel will survive without you. But you won't survive without love, without connection, without being brave enough to choose happiness over expectation. I love you. I'm sorry. Choose better than I did." The room was silent. Several board members looked uncomfortable. Robert's eyes were wet. "I am choosing," Celeste said softly. "I'm choosing to run this hotel to the best of my ability while also living my life authentically. If that's not acceptable to this board, then I'll resign as CEO today. But I won't pretend Ryan doesn't exist, And I won't hide our relationship like it's something shameful. That won't be necessary, Robert said, clearing his throat. I think I speak for the board when I say we support you, Celeste. Your father would be proud of your courage, even if he struggled to show that same courage himself. The vote was unanimous. Celeste remained CEO, with the board's blessing to live her life as she saw fit. After the meeting, Patricia approached her. I owe you an apology, she said stiffly. I was protecting the company, but I wasn't protecting you. That was wrong. Thank you, Patricia, Celeste said. And for what it's worth, you were right to be concerned. But some risks are worth taking. That evening, Celeste drove to Ryan's apartment. When he opened the door, she launched herself into his arms. How did it go? He asked, holding her tight. I'm still CEO, you're unemployed, and we're officially free to be together without anyone's approval but our own. Ryan pulled back to look at her face. Are you sure about this? I know how much that hotel means to you. It means a lot, Celeste agreed. But it's not everything. You taught me that. The 15-year-old version of you taught the 15-year-old version of me that motorcycles and friendship and grease-stained hands were just as valuable as boardrooms and profit margins. I forgot that for a while, but I remember now. I have something to show you, Ryan said, taking her hand and leading her to his truck. They drove to the storage unit, where the Harley waited. But this time, Ryan wheeled out a second motorcycle, smaller, lighter, painted a beautiful cream color with royal blue accents. When did you? Celeste started. I've been rebuilding it for 3 months, Ryan admitted. Since the day I started working at the hotel and saw you in the parking lot. I knew it was you immediately, even though you didn't recognize me. And I thought, if we ever found our way back to each other, I wanted you to have your own bike, so we could ride together side by side instead of you always being a passenger. Celeste ran her hand over the smooth paint, tears streaming down her face. It's perfect. It was your dad's, Ryan said softly. The motorcycle he and my dad were working on that last summer, before everything fell apart. Your dad sold it to a collector after we left. I tracked it down 2 years ago and bought it back. I've been restoring it piece by piece, making it what it was always meant to be. How did you afford the $50,000? Ryan said. The blood money my dad put in trust. I used it to buy back the motorcycle your dad sold and the parts to restore it. It seemed fitting, using the money that separated us to build something that could bring us together. Celeste couldn't speak. She just wrapped her arms around Ryan and held on, overwhelmed by the gesture, by the poetry of it, by the sheer hope contained in 3 years of secret restoration work. Teach me to ride, she finally said. Now? Now. They spent the next hour in the empty storage facility parking lot, Ryan patiently teaching Celeste the controls, the balance, the feel of the motorcycle beneath her. She fell twice, laughed 3 times, and finally, managed a complete circuit of the lot without stalling. You're a natural, Ryan said, beaming with pride. I had a good teacher, Celeste replied. Twice now. As the sun set, they sat on the storage unit loading dock, their motorcycles parked side by side, Celeste's head on Ryan's shoulder. What happens now? She asked. We ride, Ryan said simply. We take these bikes and we ride the Pacific Coast Highway. We visit every small town and big city between here and Oregon. We eat at diners and sleep in cheap motels, and we figure out who we are together, without the weight of the past or the pressure of everyone's expectations. I have a hotel to run, Celeste protested weakly. And I have a business to start, Ryan countered. But first we take 2 weeks. 2 weeks to just be Celeste and Ryan. Not CEO and mechanic, not past and present, just us. Can you do that? Celeste thought about her schedule, about the quarterly reports and the West Wing renovation, and the 1,000 responsibilities waiting in her office. And then she thought about her father's letter, about choosing better, about not dying with regrets. Yes, she said. Yes, I can do that. 3 days later, they left at dawn. 2 motorcycles, 2 riders, the open highway stretching before them. They rode north through California, the ocean always to their left, the mountains rising to their right. They stopped at roadside diners where the coffee was terrible and the pie was amazing. They stayed in motels with neon signs and worn carpets and absolutely no pretense, and they talked. About everything. About Ryan's years in Oregon, working construction jobs and taking community college classes, and always thinking about the girl he left behind. About Celeste's time at business school, dating men who bored her and building a career that impressed everyone except herself. About their fears and hopes and the strange miracle of finding each other again. On the 7th day, they reached the small Oregon town where Ryan had lived after leaving California. They visited his father's grave, and Celeste placed flowers on the stone. "I forgive you," she said to the grave, "for taking the money, for moving Ryan away, for all of it. You did what you thought you had to do, and in a weird way it made us who we are. So thank you, and rest in peace." Ryan squeezed her hand, and they stood together in the quiet cemetery. Two people who had been separated by money and pride and fear, now reunited by persistence and hope and the simple courage to try. On the ride home, somewhere along Highway 1 with the sunset painting the sky in impossible colors, Celeste pulled her motorcycle alongside Ryan's. At a red light, she lifted her helmet visor and shouted over the engine noise, "I love you." Ryan grinned, lifting his own visor. "I love you too. I think I always have." The light turned green and they rode on together. Two motorcycles moving as one, heading home to build the life they'd been denied 10 years ago, but somehow always knew was waiting for them. Because some stories don't end. They just pause, waiting for the right moment to continue. And sometimes, if you're very lucky and very brave, you get a second chance to write the ending you always wanted. The hotel was still there when Celeste returned. The responsibilities, the challenges, the weight of being CEO, all of it waited exactly where she'd left it. But now she faced it with Ryan beside her, building his restoration business in a workshop 3 blocks from the hotel, joining her for coffee every morning before work, riding with her along the coast every weekend. And in her office, in a frame on her desk, she kept her father's last letter alongside a photograph. 2 motorcycles parked side by side at sunset, their riders' helmets touching in what might have been a kiss. She had chosen better, and her father, wherever he was, would be proud.